Yeah, we back. Now, hopefully this is going to be a quick video, man. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the Malcolm X quote. The Malcolm X quote that basically says, the black woman is the most unprotected individual in America. The black woman is the most neglected individual in America. And as you know, there's been a running narrative on social media about how black men don't protect black women. Even in the Dr. Umar debate the other day, he mentioned that as well. He said, well, you know, if black men was protecting black women and loving black women, then we wouldn't have the problems that we have today. And this past week, I just been debunking a lot of narratives. And the beautiful thing about it, brothers, you don't got to be disrespectful when you're debunking these narratives. You don't gotta call them names. You don't got to be immature about it. You could just intellectually take them apart, intellectually break them apart, and come with the opposing argument. Now, today we're going to talk about proxy violence. Proxy violence is something I spoke about on my channel a few times before. And looking at the videos that I put out in the past couple of weeks, I think it's time to talk about it. And I think it's important for black men to challenge these narratives that are put out about us, because when you don't challenge the narrative, it becomes the truth. Somebody came into my comment section and said the same thing. A large reason why there's been so many false narratives put out against black men is because black men are very nonchalant about everything. Black men don't care to challenge it. So when you don't challenge the argument, it becomes the truth, whether it's true or not. And today I'm going to challenge the argument. I'm going to challenge the false narrative that black men don't protect black women. Not only do we protect black women, but we actively sacrifice our lives and our freedom on a constant basis for black women as well. If you've been following my channel and watching the videos that I've been putting out in the past few days, then you already understand what I'm talking about. Going all the way back to the Travis Rudolph video that I put out like 3 weeks ago. I'm sure most of y'all seen that, but for those of y'all who didn't, the Travis Rudolph case was basically a former NFL player. He got into an argument with his girlfriend, right? His girlfriend got pissed off, and then she called up her brothers. Her brothers called up his homies. They ran down at his house at like midnight, right? They came at his house at like midnight, 1 in the morning. A physical altercation took place, and then shots were fired. And one of the 4 men that came to his house ended up losing his life to an AK-47 bullet. Rest in peace to Sebastian. But thankfully for Travis Rudolph, he actually beat the case. He beat the case. I wasn't surprised because it's Florida, man. It's Florida, very gun friendly. You come to my house at 1 in the morning on a hostile energy. Yes, in Florida, I have the right to send you to the afterlife. Also, I'm sure you've seen that video I put out the other day as well. Take a look up on the screen. The investor gets 5 years in prison for doing this. And in fact, that case was very similar to the first case. In fact, it happened in the same county. They both happened in Palm Beach County. And it was the same type of scenario. The girl had an argument with her boyfriend, right? She got pissed off. She called up one of her male family members, one of her cousins. Cousin came through armed and ready. And if you watch that video, you already know what happened. Boyfriend lost his life. Now, unfortunately for the cousin, right? Unfortunately for the brother, he ended up getting 15 years in prison. But typically in these cases, that's kind of how it goes. One man goes to jail, one man goes to the cemetery. And also in the video that I put out last night, take a look up on the screen. Dr. Umar Johnson, the street man versus the street woman. And in that video, I briefly spoke about something that happened in Illinois in the past week, right? This mother got into an argument with some dude at a restaurant. She ended up calling her son. Her son pulled up. Keep in mind, her son is 14 years old. Her son pulled up armed and ready and shot the man that was actually arguing with his mother. Now, I put out all these videos in the past couple weeks. And one thing I noticed that's similar in all of these cases, all of these women have somebody they could call, whether that be a brother, a cousin, even a son that's 14 years old. They all got a black son, some relative, some black man or black boy somewhere that at a moment's notice is going to come armed and ready to shoot everything moving. And these scenarios are quite common, but they kind of get registered as simply, black on black violence or just simply violence among men, right? Because when you look at the first case, the woman who orchestrated the altercation in the Travis Rudolph case, she got no jail time, no repercussions. If you look at the second case, that lady who orchestrated that altercation and that homicide, she only got 5 years in prison. Whereas the trigger man, the cousin, the one that she called, he ended up getting 15 years in prison. So it's hard to keep track of these things unless you're reading the police reports, because it's simply going to get registered as a shooting, as a homicide, and it's going to get buried under the rug. So going back to what I said about proxy violence, what is proxy violence exactly? Proxy violence refers to a situation where someone or a group of people avoids direct involvement in a conflict or confrontation by using another person or entity to carry out the actions on their behalf. This can happen at both an individual level between individual people and even at an international level between nations. And I think when you look at the conflict in Ukraine, that's an excellent example of what you call proxy violence or a proxy conflict, because as we all know, that's a conflict, that's tensions between the United States and the Russian government. But the United States is never going to take the Russian government head on, right? So they're simply going to equip Ukraine. They're going to, back Ukraine, fund Ukraine, and Ukraine is going to carry out the actions on their behalf, and they can keep their hands clean. Now, the problem with the narrative that black men don't protect black women It's just another one of these false narratives, similar to how they talk about it's too many black men in prison, it's too many black men that are gay. It's like, okay, so black women not gay, black women not going to jail. It's similar to the false narrative about how there's not enough good black men left. And then you got to break it down. Okay, are there enough good black women left? So a lot of these false narratives are able to be given life simply because the other side of the argument or the entire 360-degree discussion is never being had. And especially when you got so many black men that are currently sitting in the cemetery and also sitting in the goddamn federal prison, in the goddamn state prison, for these narratives to be given out about how black men don't protect black women, that's just insane. Number one, protection has to start with the men in your family. Similar to when Dr. Umar's talk about how black men need to mentor black boys, that has to start with the men in the family. But the reason why people don't like to hear that is because you have to be accountable for the men in your family. You have to answer to the men in your family. It can't just be like hopping on social media and talking shit the way you talk shit. No, you can't do that to the men in your family. You can't do that. Like I told y'all, I stopped talking to my sister for 5 years because I did not approve who she was dating. Me and my father both stopped talking to my sister for 5 years until she got a new man, until she got a better man. You have to be accountable to the men in your family. And that's a very important component of leadership. Leadership also involves laying down punishment, consequences, guidelines, and just rules of engagement. But the reason why they want to outsource these things to just random men on the street, like you gotta, random men on the street should be protecting black women, or just random men on the street should be mentoring black boys, is because you don't gotta be accountable to random men on the street. You don't gotta answer to random men on the street, but you gotta answer to the men in your family. You gotta be accountable to the men in your family, and they don't want to hear that. That's why they want to outsource these things like protection and mentorship to just random men in the community that have no authority. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So once again, brothers, you gotta challenge these narratives. Challenge them intellectually. Challenge them in an elegant way. You don't got to be immature about it, calling them a bunch of names, being just, challenge it, break apart the argument in an intellectual way, and they can come back with their argument. It is what it is. Anyways, it's your boy Neferkari Desalegn back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.